and I, again, would argue U.S.-China is a platform war, both on the reciprocal trade line, as Julia talked about, and on the values line that I talked about. How do you think this resolves?
Well, John, I love the way you framed it. I mean, I think you're right. There's definitely platform wars happening all over the place in the tech landscape right now. I think on the TikTok deal, it's going to be really tough. It'd be interesting to see. I have a lot of friends in China who think that the Chinese government is not going to approve the transaction. They have to find a face-saving way for them to approve it, if that's the direction they want to go. But right now, how it's set up politically, I don't think it's going to happen. But in terms of what's happening with Facebook, in terms of what's happening with Apple, there's a lot of things going on right now. One of the things is that big tech is going to be under a lot of regulatory pressure, and it's going to be really interesting to watch how that also plays out in these platforms war that you talk about.
What determines who wins? We used to be in the situation with U.S.-China where the U.S. was knocking on the door and sort of had faith that innovation, that free markets were going to crack open China eventually. And, you know, there was this sense that openness, whether you're looking at Android versus iOS, Android was eventually going to sort of economically win because it was so open. Well, along so many lines, this isn't panning out the way that people thought. Now China's knocking on the door over here. They've got intellectual property and apps that are doing pretty well. And it turns out that a vertically integrated, well-managed platform in iOS can still be more profitable, even if it's not more broadly popular.
Exactly. You took the words out of my mouth. The interesting thing, though, from the China perspective, and the reason why China is still closed off to many U.S. tech companies, especially social media companies, is that one of the biggest problems and one of the biggest areas of focus of the Chinese government is social harmony. And if you take a look at what the platforms have done here in the U.S., whether it's Facebook or Instagram or others, it's allowed a lot of social disharmony. And that's just a fact pattern that China is going to use to say, no way are we going to let these platforms in, because look what's happening in your country.
Wow.
Hany, for you as an investor, you say you want a flat playing field in China. What does that mean, and what does that actually look like?
You know, it's tough. I mean, I think one of the biggest transactions that has happened in the last few weeks that I think hasn't gotten a lot of attention, but I think from my perspective is critically important, was the NVIDIA acquisition of ARM. ARM is obviously, as you guys know, is a processor company, hardware company, which hasn't gotten a lot of attention in the world today. But I think it's one of the most fundamental technologies that's going to enable the next generation platforms to happen. And those kinds of platforms will happen everywhere, not just in the US or China, but it'll happen everywhere. And it'll enable a next generation of companies to potentially dominate and take over Facebook and Apple and all the others, the same way that Microsoft and Oracle have been left behind by the new generation. So I think that's going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years. You're going to see a next generation based on the new hardware that's being developed today and being invented today.